Going to mute you, gentlemen, because we are. What's wrong? Welcome, gentlemen. We are actually live right now. Uh, for those who are watching us, viewing us somewhere in the world, we'll be right at you in about 2 minutes. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Welcome, gentlemen. We are actually live right now. For those who are watching us, viewing us somewhere in the world, we'll be right at you in about 2 minutes. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Welcome, gentlemen. We are actually live right now. For those who are watching us, actually live right now somewhere in the world, we'll be right at you in about 2 minutes. Viewing us somewhere in the world, we'll be right at you in about 2 minutes. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Welcome, gentlemen. We are actually live right now. For those who are watching us, actually live somewhere in the world, we'll be right at you in about 2 minutes. Somewhere in the world, actually live right now. Okay. Here we go, gentlemen. We're about to go. The Black State of the Union, Charlotte style, live and in living color. Here we go, gentlemen. We're about America. America, glad to see you all. This is Pastor Barrett, Torian, Quentin, John, and Kyren. I'm going to ask you, if you can mute your computers for a quick second before we get started. So, family, this is I'm going to introduce my friend Torian sitting right now. We're going to get started today. We're co-facilitating. Uh-oh. We're co-facilitating. I hear some other things going on. All right. So, let's go ahead and get started with today's program. We're really excited about today. A lot of things are taking place, and I know it's right to say excited, more so that we put ourselves in a position now to be in the crossroads of America. America is changing as we sit here, as people are in the midst of an uprising, as others are in martial law. I think we can, in Minneapolis, I was told by a pastor friend of mine that they are in martial law, and by 8 o'clock they're supposed to
side, and he saw approximately 100 trucks heading into the city. And so things are changing. The officer who's was found. Well, I guess he was arrested and then charged today with third-degree murder and manslaughter. Some people feel that that is enough. Other people feel that there is more. As we speak right now, there are about 5, 6, or 7 cities in America that are in the midst of some sort of protest, uprising, or saying we're not going to take it anymore. And we thought it was appropriate for men to get together and have a conversation about the state of Black America. And so I want to introduce Torian Sitton right now. He's a young minister here in the great city of Charlotte, a businessman, entrepreneur extraordinaire. And he really put together this conversation today with some of his friends, and so really enthused about it. So, but Torian is not connected, so we can't go to Torian. So let's get started with Quentin. Quentin, just tell us a little bit something about you, Quentin, and then after Quentin, we go to John. After John, we go to Caribbean. Just take a minute to tell us a little bit who you are.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Quentin DeBerry. Been living here in Charlotte for about 8 or 9 years. Background in both finance, human resources as a recruiter, small business owner doing consulting work for various clients in Charlotte. Now I am employed for a firm here in town doing process improvement and digital transformation. So looking forward to engaging with all the guys tonight.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I am John Brailsford. I own a few businesses. I'm from here in Charlotte. I'm a life coach. We own a business called Brailsford Breakthrough, which is actually a platform for personal coaching and motivational speaking. In addition to that, we do credit restoration. In addition to that, I work a corporate 9-to-5, specializing in network engineering for one of the bigger telecommunication companies in the U.S. Glad to be a part of the conversation and looking forward to engaging with you guys.
Awesome, awesome. Kyron, tell us about you, brother.
What's going on? My name is Kyron Gibson. I'm a famous social media public speaker with my son. We get paid to go talk to you and just uprise and teach these kids financial literacy, something that's not in the Black community as it should be. With everything going on, So that's me, and I'm from North Carolina as well, from Asheville. I live in Charlotte now, and so nice to meet all you.
Nice to meet you too, man. Thank you for joining us here today. So I think we had Daniel just joined us. Let's bring Daniel on in. Hey, Daniel, how you doing, my brother?
Hey guys, and thanks for having me. Sorry for being a little late.
Oh, we just did introductions. So take a minute to tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Originally, I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, raised on the Gulf Coast, Mississippi. I've been in Charlotte now roughly about 5 or 6 years. I work in the General Counsel Office of Ally Bank. So currently, I practice technically under contract law. I pretty much just
Okay. Anybody here a father? I think one said he was a father. Anybody else a father besides Kyron? All right, that's your name, right, brother Kyron? Are you are too, Daniel?
no,
John.
I'm not a father, but my girlfriend has a son that I help raise.
Okay. All right. Very good. Our esteemed colleague Torian has left us, and so it's going to be us for now until he appears again. But let's go ahead and I think we just lost another. Let's go ahead and we had some conversations that. Let me start off. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Pastor Barrett Berry. I'm pastor of the New Church Empowered Living Church, the ELC, in the great city of Charlotte, North Carolina. This is my 6th city. I'm a Los Angeles guy, partially raised in South Bend, Indiana, and been here about 4 years in Charlotte, and really love God, love His people, and really hurt by what I see, but I understand what I see. I think we all, as Black men, can kind of really can feel the agony, the anger, the frustration, and as I look across the city, across the country, I think many of us are saying we're not going to take it no more and drawing a line in the sand. And others are saying maybe we should draw it back and be more peaceful. But I think it's up in the air. I mean, that's why I want to have a discussion. I don't want to put my position on there. I came through the Rodney King era from Los Angeles, so
Hmm.
I I kind of get it, and so but I want to know how other people feel. So let's go ahead and just dive into it. We have some questions here that we put together. Just want to get it started, and then one question is: when civil arrest happens, is it justifiable? I mean, is this a justifiable insurrection that's taking place? And mind you, now it's Minneapolis, it's Louisville, it's Atlanta, I think it's Columbus, it's around the country. But is civil unrest when it happens is it justifiable? Who wants to take on that first? Feel free to go ahead and jump in.
Well, okay, I'll jump in. So, and I'm not going to do a lot of quotes or anything, but my initial thought is that civil unrest is not justifiable. I think just what's justifiable, meaning of there's a means to an end. It's balanced out. The anger, I think the anger, the pain, the hurt, that is justifiable. But destroying property of someone else, often someone else who has nothing, very little to do with it, that's not justifiable. And I think the history of the rioting, when it comes from, when I think about it, I think about the 60s or the riots in the 60s or the civil
Mm-hmm.
rights. They burned down police stations. They burned down the diners where the event may have happened. Our people, not just our people in particular, we burned down our own neighborhoods. We like in Minneapolis, that Target. How many of those people probably go to that Target or work there? So that's where I get where it's not justifiable. Because I mean, Pastor, you know that the eye for an eye leads everybody blind. Like it just doesn't add up. Destroying property that taxpayers have to replace and pay for just doesn't make sense. It never makes sense to me.
Okay,
It,
all
it,
right, very good, very good, very good. Who else wants to tackle it? Daniel said his piece. Somebody else. Who else wants to go?
For me, I'm not looking to see if it's justifiable. I don't think that's my call um,
Mm-hmm.
to say this is justifiable or not. Do I agree with it at this particular moment in my life and time? Yeah, I agree with it. You have the Wilmington massacre, where they destroyed black property and killed black people. You have Black Wall Street. You have the riots of was Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so civil unrest at this particular time, I think this is what needed. We've tried as African Americans everything that we know of. And I think because this time is so big and so in your face, that people are finally waking up. I've seen more non-black people be more vocal, more instrumental than I've ever seen before. And I think it's because of this level of civil unrest.
Okay, all right. Who else wants to go? Go ahead, and jump in. Hit your mic. Just jump on in.
I think like everything else, civil unrest has its limits. I think it's justifiable within certain means. I think to the extent that I've seen certain things, I know that it's completely out of frustration and anger. We're all frustrated. We're all angry right now. And I mean, just seeing some of the images of some of the things that's taking place in some of these cities, it's truly disturbing. And like the first brother said, I agree with, we can't burn down our neighborhoods. We can't burn down our businesses that are contributing to the wealth within our own community. And not to say that it's okay to burn down or do those things to other businesses as well. But we definitely have to find a means of getting past that doesn't contribute to burning down the neighborhood or taking away from the same things that might be helping us progress. We got to be very strategic in how we go about civil unrest, so to speak.
Okay, all right. Last but not least, Karen.
Yeah, I'm a, I'm not gonna sit here and hold back. Um,
Don't
honestly,
hold back. Don't hold back.
yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Think about it. 100 years was just yesterday. I'm 28 years old. 100 years was just yesterday. Uh, Slavery was just yesterday. Like, come on. Like, my grandmother is what 66, and she was just drinking at Colors Only water fountain. We've been screaming this piece, like Stokely Carmichael. Stokely Carmichael was with Malcolm, I mean, with Martin Luther King at first, marching with him. You go look at the pictures of history, but then eventually, what he do? He turned to a Black Panther. All this quietness became it's over. All this people mad right now. Like it's so many angles of corruption with this whole situation. To like, you got people like, if somebody steps up and speaks on, you got they got us so programmed with Black people. If somebody speaks up, you got other Blacks saying, shut up, man, you ain't gonna do nothing about it. You got others where they both, but they don't know what to do. They scared, this and that. Like y'all said, I agree with y'all. We don't need to turn up our neighborhood, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't care that they're tearing up stuff as long as it's not our neighborhood. They need to go burn down the police station. And like, I have friends that reached out to me on social media that told me the whole situation. Like the store they was in front of, that's who called the police, and they didn't even do that. They sat there, the owners, from what I was told, sat there and watched it happen. They didn't say nothing. They didn't care. All over a forgery, so-called forgery. I'm not going to speak and say that's what happened, but my whole thing is we got to stop this shit and be quiet. Nothing's going to never change. This whole system was created off racism, and nothing's going to never change. You can't just all this sitting here, but hopefully just keep praying to God that something's going to change. You got to action. That's like if you pray to God, you're not putting no action behind what you're praying to God to help you with it. You're not putting no action. It's not gonna happen. If you praying for $1 million and you're not working for it, how you gonna get $1 million? You gotta do what you believe in, practice it and preach it as well. So we have to do this physically and not just sit here and praying all day, but we have to go make it happen as well. And then that's where two come together and boom, let's do it. Like all this sitting here waiting for this to happen, and we past that. We got to go do it ourselves. Like it's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop. Look at Donald Trump, and he's throwing gasoline on it. It's not gonna stop.
Yes. Yes, he is.
See,
Yes, he is.
well, to piggyback off of that, I agree with everything that's been said in part. The gentleman, I don't know where he is, but the blue hat. I like what he said earlier about the neighborhoods, and we need to do something. And Kyrie, I like what you said also. I guess the issue, one of the major issues, is what do we do? Are we doing the right thing? Civil disobedience or civil unrest can be positive. Like, it doesn't have to be violent in what we have seen and what we have portrayed it. And many of the times, if we can get that same passion that our brothers and sisters are using to go ride in the street, just carry that passion to November. Those same individuals, we can get you to walk to your block, to your polling place, and take that same passion, and just with a pen, vote, 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 vote. This last voting election we had, and when Trump was elected, was one of the lowest turnouts in the Democratic Party in history. And it was the first time in history that such a low turnout, such a difference in margin from the highest. You know who was before? Obama. So we went from one of the highest turnouts in Obama's for back to back to one of the lowest turnouts. And a lot played a part in that. So, and I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here, but I agree with you that we need to do something. I don't think this is it though. I never think violence and burning down something. I have the issue with my friends all the time. I don't think violence is the last resort, because violence begets violence. That's all it does.
I support voting.
Police station, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that same
Oh,
police station that
yes.
they could have burned down, and this is my last point. Let's say they wouldn't burn down the same police station. Let's say that there's somebody's sister, mama, and brothers who are getting in trouble. Somebody that has a domestic issue. Somebody may have been in a car wreck, may have been getting robbed, may have been getting shot at. If there are no police officers right there in that police station to go across town to help these people, because there's one incident, just one incident, it just doesn't balance out to me because of reasons like that.
Let me say this. I want to first say I've been a lifelong Democrat. I'm registered as liberal. I mean, whatever it is here. But my first job, not liberal, but independent. My first job out of college was a Democrat. I want to say that up front for all my Democratic friends to say I'm a believer in voting. But how about this, Daniel? How about people are just tired of voting and not seeing change? We've been voting since we had the right to vote, and people still getting lynched on television. And so
Right.
maybe that has gotten to some of the younger people are saying, we've seen voting, we've seen the traditional marches, and it hasn't worked. And so that being the case, for the first time in years, there isn't a one single leader. In the last 10 years, there hasn't been one single leader to speak for black people. And so maybe that has something to do with it as well. I just want to put that out there just a little bit, but it's hard to say go vote when you don't have anybody to vote for.
Right.
So
Well, that's true, and I've crossed that argument before with another friend of mine who actually in Atlanta now, and my response to him would be the same to you: is we do not vote in the elections that matter in the local elections, and where I broke it down to him is that people want to show up for the presidential elections if they show up at all, and but you ask them who their county commissioner is, you ask them who their who ran for sheriff and what is their background. You ask them who's not mayor, but who's running for city manager. The positions that actually impact their neighborhoods. Who is your councilman? They can't name one of them. It may be 14 councilmen, and they can't name not one of them in any state, and their parents can't name
Daniel,
one.
I know all of them, and the dude still got killed. So I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
was,
knowing them is gonna. I know every last person who represents my church, my district, in my church. I know every last one of them.
Yes,
And
but you're
the
one
brother still got
of
shot at Burger King, and she still didn't get arrested or found guilty. So that argument. That argument, I don't know, is working with the young people right now. So I'm gonna ask. I think
Go
Quentin
ahead.
wants to jump in.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to push back a little bit because that narrative has been shared. That narrative is always said that black people don't vote, black people don't do this. But I want to push back and say that my friends do vote. I graduated from an HBCU, and North Carolina has over, well, we have about 9 or 10 HBCUs. I was student body president of my college, so I'm very
Me
involved with.
too. Me too.
I'm very involved with what was going on. But I say that to say our demographic is so invested in their future that we push back on those narratives. I think someone mentioned earlier, we saw what companies did to our parents. We saw what voting did to our parents. We saw what companies did when they left small towns and rural America. So I think we're a little more engaged in this process. I don't necessarily need to know my county. I do know mine, but I don't necessarily need to know them for them to represent me or the district I live in. That's their job. That's their obligation of what they should be doing. Should we be holding their feet to the fire and accountable for the things we want as Black people? Absolutely. But the narrative, personally, I'm just tired of the narrative of pushing it back on well, Black people don't do this when in droves we're showing up in numbers. If you go out now, they're marching and protesting in Charlotte right now. So we can't just keep saying that narrative because that's the narrative that the potentially that the news shares with that Black people don't do this and Black people don't know. But I have Black friends. You're an attorney. You've beaten every statistic that they've ever put out on you. We all beat every statistic that they've ever put out on us. And then multiply that by the friends that we know that our demographics truly are voting. We just not, I don't think we have candidates that represents our agenda. And the candidates that do look like us, that talk like us, that come from the neighborhoods like us, once they get in those roles, they forget why they have been elected and start taking kind of the items that they get as being elected officials.
And to
I
respond
want to
to
get Kyron in. I think Kyron's been holding on. Go ahead, Kyron. Jump in for this with this.
I feel what everybody's saying. But this is the problem. Being young, I don't know how old y'all are, but being young, we don't have enough. I mean, this is how we're looking at it. I'm torn down the middle because I feel even if we not voting, we still need to know who is possibility, like what their history is of running where we live. And so I feel what you're saying with that. But at the end of the day, voting or not voting ain't nothing changed. We tired. We sick and tired. We are tired. Like you vote and it's still happening. It's not changing nothing. You vote and they still hate you. Put up nooses with the president on it. We tired of all that. Like look, let's be real. Let's look at history. Let's call out facts. Let's get the opinion. COINTELPRO. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover in 1956 created COINTELPRO. That's to kill any possibility of the next Black Messiah. So who they killed? They killed Malcolm. They killed Morton. They went after Asada Shakur. They killed Fred Hampton at 21 years old. They killed anybody that had a chance of bringing unity, any type of unity. Even they killed female activism. Anything of unity at all, they shut it down. So no matter what we do, no matter how much we vote, they gonna shut us down. And then you see, I don't know if y'all saw it, but they had one of the cops. They found out what his identity was. One of the cops was the one going around tearing stuff down on purpose. They want to keep the aggression. So no matter what we do, they gonna do whatever they can to tear us down. So it's like a lose lose. So why? I mean, think about it. When you feel like, why did I vote? Why am I voting? Why? Why?
Well, let's hold that thought.
Why?
John, I want you to talk. After John, I want to introduce Grant. Matter of fact, John, before you talk, hold that thought. Grant, introduce yourself for a minute. Thank you for joining us in this conversation.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
All
my name
right.
is Grant Rivers. Nice to meet you all.
Where you from and what you do with yourself when you're not on while the world watching you right now live.
Yeah, so I was born in Western North Carolina. I'm currently in Bermuda. I've been training for the Olympics for the last little bit, but just because I'm outside of the country right now doesn't mean that I'm not going to try to speak up for these issues and weigh in on the conversation. So really excited to be invited and just happy to be here with you all.
What's your event?
So I did do the decathlon in college, competed in the ACC for NC State, and now I switched over to javelin for the 2021 Olympics. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. John, chime in, man. How do you feel? What's on your mind?
I just to kind of piggyback on that, I completely stay away from narratives like that. Not voting, and I know a lot of people that vote as well, but not voting or not knowing certain people in authority in no way justifies murder, period. And when I see narratives like that, and I've been seeing them all over Facebook, people that comment on black crime is not the same as what's taking place in these cities with people of authority of other colors, putting us in this depressed state of being murdered for no reason, senseless killing. Like, you can't compare those narratives. They're just not comparable. You just can't say that this justifies this. It really doesn't. They're not even in the same category. We're not putting enough emphasis on the fact that this was by all means senseless. There was no necessary reason for that to take place.
But Pastor, if you're speaking, I can't hear you. My sound is.
Yeah.
Is anyone
I
else?
said, I'm sorry, forgive me. The officer that had his foot on the neck of our dear brother George was arrested today, and I guess his charges were third-degree murder. I'm a little upset about that, and then manslaughter as well. But the other three officers, it appears as though they may not have any charges. Well, they didn't have any charges today. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but initially no charges were dropped on them. But what do you think about the former police officer? What do you think? Do you think he'll get convicted? Yes, he got arrested, but will he get convicted? What are your thoughts?
Were you asking me in particular, or were you asking?
Go ahead. You can start off. Go ahead, Daniel. Anybody, but go ahead,
You
Daniel.
probably got the most experience in this area.
Yeah, it's a 2 point answer. Do I
Go
think
ahead.
he should be convicted? Yes. Am I and for more than third-degree manslaughter and the third-degree murder? Yes. Do I think he will? No, because very rarely under U.S. Constitutional Code in 1983 is what prevents police excessive brutality from police officers. Probably less than 3% of those cases are positive for the victims. And the reason that is because the police officers, you're not only, well, for three reasons. One, most people that bring the charges against them don't have the finances to fight it. And if you do, you have to find an attorney that's capable of doing that successfully. Three, you're not only fighting a police officer, you're fighting in a whole municipality. And then states like California, where you're from, California has a law that if there is a chance that the officer could lose, then they have to pay out the settlement. It doesn't go like it doesn't make it because the simple fact is they want to discourage litigation against police officers. Is 1983 the rule the law is there, but it is only there in writing. It really has no legs under to run, which is why so very few police officers are convicted. And here in Charlotte, for instance, here in Charlotte, police officers union usually go get this guy. I went to law school with his son, George. Oh, he represented the officer who killed the gentleman from Florida for family youth a couple years ago. He is a phenomenal defense attorney, but he is on retainer for by the police union. You won't find there that many better alternatives in, and so the union gets the best defense attorneys that money can buy in the state. That's why they rarely lose. They have an unlimited amount of resources. So you're not only going against the state, you're going against a police union who has hired the best attorney you can find. At the time I worked for an attorney named Norman Butler, and Norman Butler, one who told me, he was like, if I ever get in trouble, George is who I'm going to call. And he is probably the best attorney I know. And so if he's his favorite attorney,
Well, let's change it up then. Let's change it. So what you're saying is more than likely he won't get convicted, and that's kind of sad, but it's what we kind of think. But if he's not convicted, let's go around the table here. How will America react?
I think America will erupt.
I know it will. Hold on, let's get the newcomer in down here. Go ahead. What do you think? That would be Grant. What do you think? What do you think? What's going to happen in America from Bermuda?
There's no telling what hurt people do out of hurt actions. I work with at-risk children a lot, and I've had a lot of conversations with white people as of late as to why the rioting is taking place, why Black people are having the reactions that they are operating out of. And the thing is, you can't always use your world logic and your worldview and your framework of how to react to things and put that onto other people. Black people have been hurting for a long time. This is an issue that if this police officer were to only get third degree, I still believe that there will be outbursts and there will be hurt feelings and riots and things of that nature. And it's because people don't know any other way to vocalize their pain. We've talked previously about, and I know social media is kind of roaring about Colin Kaepernick and the peaceful protests and other things. But if you look all the way back to the 1960s and the civil rights movement, peaceful protests were taking place then as well. So this is a long-standing issue that we're seeing, and I think that people are just sick and tired of it, and they're going to act out. They're going to retaliate in ways that, of course, we do not encourage. But we're going to see more of this if we don't get justice.
All right. Somebody else want to take this on? John, Quentin, Daniel, Kyron?
Why are we so against people letting out their frustration the way they want to let out their frustration? 2 weeks ago, they were armed, or not even about 2 weeks ago, there's a picture in the News and Observer where a guy has, I think it's either a gun or something, pointed at a lady and her husband and his kid in a stroller. And they're mad because they can't go get haircuts. Again, I'm gonna always rely on white people have been able to tear stuff up, and nobody has a problem with it. It's okay. And then as soon as us as African Americans say, I'm sitting down peaceful and quiet, not only do you spit on me, you sit dogs on me. You put water on me, I'm supposed to just sit there and take it. And now that I'm pushing back to stand up, we don't want to destroy our communities, or we don't want to resort to violence. I think this is just a way of, these are how this certain demographic reacts, and realizing that all of us don't need to be protesting. Like, I have friends that are avid protesters. For me, my process was, I want to be at the table where the decisions are made. This has to be a multi-step approach where we're gonna need some tables overturned. We're gonna need some trash cans burned, but we're also gonna need some people that are instrumental with developing policies that understand how to get our people hired, how to get us promoted, how to make sure we're better equipped, both inside the structure building and also equipped on the outside of the structure building. But it's frustrating because, like my man Karen said, he's 28, I'm 33, 34. So I've seen a lot, and I'm also tired. You know what I'm saying? I've been in rooms where I was the only African American in 2020. Why am I the only African American person in the room? Like, why are we still celebrating stuff that we think is normal? And again, it's 2020. So today I'm all for it. I don't really care about that Target. I really don't care about that Walmart.
Okay. All
To be
right.
super honest, because those are not our investments.
Okay.
We really start looking down. Those are not community investments for us. Most of those people probably make anywhere from $11 to $12 an hour, and we know that's not really economic growth. So these companies that we think are investing in these neighborhoods, they're not that invested.
Yeah. Okay. Who else wants to jump in? That's good. That's good. Karen, I see you moving your finger forward. Let me help you out there. Go ahead. I
Y'all
got
take
you.
my camera off, but I'm gonna keep it like this. At Black community, we trap. It's not to get past it. We trap. Once we know, when I walk out my door, I gotta worry about another black man hating me. I got another worry about another white man hating me. So we trapped, and it's been systematically. They've been doing it since they brought us over here in them boats. They had us so far behind with the Woody Lynch syndrome that we cannot catch up. We get close. Like this is what they did. They let Obama come in there to give us hope, but then they put Trump in there intentionally to take it away, just to let us feel like we was close. They know what they're doing. This is systematic. So it's just like this, like with the quarantine going on. I don't know if y'all heard this. I'm gonna give y'all something real quick to think about when it comes to us. The rats, because of the quarantine, especially in New York, they get more aggressive
Mm-hmm.
because there's no food to eat. Think about the black community. There's no food to eat, like the Rex. There's no food to eat. So what are they doing now? Now they get aggressively attacking each other and eating each other. Same thing. So they do that with us. So now we hate each other. Then they also throw their fire on us as well. They like this. No matter what we do, we protest silently. You can't do that. Take their money away. Just dribble that basketball. Shut up. Like they might tell Grant, just run. Shut up. Boom, boom, boom. You run the track. Okay, but then we do it and show out. Oh, y'all know worse than the killer. Like no matter what we do, they got some type of comeback to make us feel like we are ignorant, no matter what we do. So yeah, I don't care about that charge. And if he don't get charged, yeah, I go out there ride myself. but that's the problem. They know what they did. They didn't put him in custody because this murder. They put him in custody to protect him because everybody's around his house protesting. That's what I feel. I feel they really only got him in there because if that's the case, let him been black. They would have put him in there off gate day one. He wouldn't have been able to go home. They know what they're doing. It's all this is just it's sickening what's going on. It's sickening what's going on. Man.
I like the diversity of the thoughts here because what it's showing is Black America is not, we're not the same, but that's beautiful. I mean, I think that the diversity that we bring to the table is what makes us strong because you really never know what you're going to get when you get with a black man. And I think that works to our strength and it kind of throws the enemy off a little bit. But who else? John, you have something to jump in here on this topic?
Yeah, I think everybody's just frustrated at this point. It's a lot of anger out there, a lot of unrest amongst our emotions, and I think what we're going to see is a Black America at defense at all costs every time we walk out of our door, and this is becoming more and more of a reality every single day that we live. I myself, with my children and my wife, taking a walk the last couple of weeks, just making sure that I don't leave home without my gun. And having my son look at me and ask me, why is it so necessary that we have to take this now? And it's necessary because you don't know whether you're going to make it back home from a job. You don't know whether you're going to make it back home from walking. Worse, get pulled over or pinned down for something that's senseless and murder, whether you're by yourself, with your family, or whatever the situation may be. So, in my opinion, we're going to see a Black America and anybody that is supporting that cause in defense 100% of the time until change is made, period.
All right. All right.
Interesting. Okay.
That's good perspective. Now I'm gonna put it this way. Let's go a little bit. What? Now we talked about something's gonna happen, but what positive outcomes should we expect? Now, right now, there are uproar. I mean, there's uprisings in several American cities. They are protesting right now in the city of Charlotte, like as we speak, like right now, and that's just. I think that's just the tip of the cities that will have some sort of rebellion or unrest. So, but what do we expect to happen after this? Now, I think Quentin made a point, and somebody made a point that what they're burning down in Minneapolis, they Target. We don't own Target, and maybe there's some smaller stores. Well, let me give you a history about 1992. In 1992 in Los Angeles, when there was the uprising took place there, besides the fact that Rodney King was brutalized and the cops got off, it was a young lady who was killed in a Korean grocery store or Korean neighborhood store, shot in the back of the head. And so, yes, you saw some of the stores being burned, but if you were to go and look at a map of where the Korean stores were before the riot and where they were after, you would see the vast majority of the Korean-owned stores were burned down in the black community. So there was a systematic way of approaching that rebellion that nobody wants to talk about, but it was real. So there may be some things that come out of this, but I don't know if. And then also, there's usually always somebody who is an agitator, such as what Kyron was saying was the officer who they're accusing of possibly starting some of the fires. A white officer possibly starting some of the fires at the police station. There's always an opportunity for an outsider to try to agitate a situation too. So we can't always look at the people in the fight. And the last thing I'm going to say is, this is not a black problem. This is an American problem, and black people are caught up in it because we take the grunt of the negatives. But there are also some white folks out here fighting too, and some Latinos and some Asians as well. And that's something different from the previous 20 years, 30 years, and 40 years. There was some, but now it's a diverse group of people who are out there swinging in the wind. But so what do we think? What positive outcomes should we expect after the protest is over? Who wants to jump in on that?
No.
If there are any positive, if you don't think there's any positive, speak on that too. I think speak on that too, man. It's okay.
I think
It's hard.
I think we're starting to see some of the positives. I'll speak for me personally. This week I've gotten more calls from just black men in my life, from people I went to high school with, people I went to college with, to just black men I'm seeing as I walk around the neighborhood. I got more what's ups in the last 5 days than I probably got in the last 5 years. But the outcome, I think, is just that genuine like we're both brothers, and we're not at war with each other. Of course, you're still going to have your outliers, but for the most part, I think this is a turning of the tide where the respect of just black men for each other will significantly increase, and I think we'll value each other a lot more. Because we're seeing that we're not only dying from the hands of police brutality, but we want to take back our own neighborhoods. So you're starting to see the change of the self-ownership, that self-identity of who we are and what we want to be.
Okay, all right. Now I think my man Daniel had a different take on it, so I'm gonna.
I don't know about a different take. I was trying to scratch my head, like, what can be the positive? And I went over W Boys down to 10. I went over, like, is there a positive out of this? And the only thing that I can come up with as far as a positive out of the situation is what we're doing right now. And, polarity, but having these type of issues, bring these type of conversations together with I've never I met him. We went and watched a fight with me, him, and Torian like months ago. But I've never got a chance to meet y'all brothers, and now I can. So the positive is that their actions, and when I say there, is any evildoer, the actions that they are doing are bringing the people who have positive mindsets, who won't change, bringing them closer together. All the bad they do, all they're doing is bringing us together. I know he mentioned earlier about us being uniting. Things like this can make us unite. And so I think the positive I take for that is going to force us to unite, whether we want to or not. Yeah, you look at those brothers. I might not like my neighbor if he was black. He's not black. He's Indian. But I might not like my neighbor if he was black. But if I see something wrong, if I see something going wrong, I would tell him now, or I would speak to him. I look at him different because at the end of the day, he is a brother. Look, man, I ain't safe, man. You all right? Or conversations I may have. Like I may have a conversation with a dude who I never talked to. Like, man, how you feel about this, man? It's crazy, right? Yeah, man, this is going on. We got to do something. So they're actually bringing us together. So the positive thing I can say is the fact that they're bringing us together. They're pushing us together rather than bringing us together. But body riots, how many people are meeting in Charlotte right now who didn't know each other? And what may come down the road from them meeting that person at that riot? What's the gentleman name that he's now on the councilman with the dreads? He was. I saw him at the last. I met him at the last riot before he was
Braxton.
elected. Braxton. Yeah, he would not have been elected had that situation not happened. I think. Who knows?
That's true.
He may have. He may have aspirations. So those are the positives. That I think may come out of that.
Okay, very good. Somebody else want to jump in? I'm gonna bring Torian back in a second.
There's so many ways to look at it. Like y'all said, the positive. I think it's a positive in amongst ourselves, black men, black women. Like I said, we need to fix ourselves. So I like that. I mean, it's messed up that it takes a death. And this is my only problem with us. Every time somebody died, whether it's one of our homeboys in the streets or somebody back home, it takes a death to bring family back. Like now, we don't do family reunions like we used to. We don't do nothing together like we used to. It always takes a death for us to look at the brighter side. Like when Nipsey died, everybody came together and started wanting to be deep. It shouldn't take no deaths for none of us to come together. And I hope we can look at this and say this and start being like, we need to be on top of everything as a whole 24/7, not only when somebody around us close to us died, and when we want to look at life and what's going on. So it's a positive, I hope, outcome full term from this. But in America outside of the black community, I just feel like if they do pick nobody, they're gonna say, okay, they got it this time. Now this time, let's get them. Just like look at how we look at the OJ situation. Some blacks be like, yeah, OJ did it, but oh well, they done got us a bunch of times. It's like a pick. It's a knick-knack, tit-for-tat. So, I mean, I don't. With them, I don't. I think it's still gonna be cat and mouse, and we're gonna still always be the mouse in their eyes. But in the black community, I hope this is a long-term positive situation.
Very good, John. I'll give you. Let John jump on in real quick for us. You there, John?
I agree with everything that's been said here in terms of yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Can you fellas hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said here in terms of what to expect after the protest concludes. But what I'm hoping for, like the gentleman before me said, is consistency. Not just letting this be a momentary thing where we come together right now during this particular time, and then, when the next incident happens, it seems to be a gap between and when the next incident happens. We need consistency, because consistency will hopefully eliminate those future incidents from happening in the manner that they're happening in. So for me, I'm just hoping for consistency. A lot of the same things that you brothers been seeing, I've been seeing as well. The extra what's ups, the extra, checking to make sure, one another is good. I just really want to see some consistency. That's what I'm really hoping to see after this all concludes.
Amen. Well, John, I want to thank you, man. We're bringing Torian right now. Everybody say thank you to John. That was some good insight. We're going to bring Torian in, and let's keep this conversation going. Let's see. So while I do that,
I would definitely like to weigh in on some of the positive outcomes that
go ahead.
come about.
Go ahead.
So Western North Carolina is largely So Western North Carolina is largely a predominantly white culture that statistically Black people are far outnumbered by white people. And I will say that having conversations with some of my white counterparts, they have been saying things like they largely think a lot of these issues are blown out of proportion. The media, whether it be CNN or Fox News, they do believe that a lot of the killings are small in number and have been over exaggerated. But what I am seeing in terms of positives is that Kenneth Walker, the killing of his girlfriend, whenever we're looking at Ahmaud Arbery and that killing, and then recently this past killing, it's the perfect storm of instances where white people can't necessarily look and say, hey, those people had a background where they came from selling drugs or being violent or doing other things that in their minds don't constitute death, but are reasons for, oh, we should view them as questionable individuals. So it's positive in the sense that these people are kind of seeing that these instances are happening and there's a paradigm shift in their mind. As a result, conversations are taking place. A lot of people are asking a lot more questions of Black people and saying, why are these things happening? And what can I do about it? I don't want to undersell the power of moderate whites. I think that that's something the African American community does far too often. Martin Luther King saw moderate whites, and he saw the power and influence that they have on a largely homogenous white society. And he said these people have power and say in the Black lives and realities of our people. So we can't just discard white people and say, we're going to take the ring and do it by ourselves. No, we have to continuously build these relationships and tell them that love is the answer. I'm not one to be in agreement that violence and rioting is the first choice. I will never say that, but also I understand the language of hurt people, and I won't diminish that. No, they should not steal. Yes, they are breaking the law, absolutely, and their time in court will also come. That's just the reality. But we need to be able to use our voices and voices in a good way to make an impact. And I really do see a lot of positive outcomes coming from this and a paradigm shift taking place.
All right. Now I want to thank you for that. We got my man Torian in. We're hearing a variety of discussion points here, but Torian, why don't you chime in and how do you feel it's going for? Take your time. Take your time. You've been absent for a little bit.
Well, first I want to thank everybody for coming on. I know each one of you personally. I spent a great amount of time with all of y'all, so thank y'all for coming on. But one thing I want to address though, when the subject of Black Lives Matters comes to
Torian, I can't hear you. I don't. Can y'all hear Torian?
It's like
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Go ahead, Torian. Let's try it now.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Cool. So
yes, go ahead.
I was saying one thing that I've spent a great amount of time with all of you. But when the thought comes to mind, like Black Lives Matter, most people first take offense to that because they think first response is all lives matter, right? So the problem is just because we're highlighting a specific group doesn't mean we're not highlighting or we forgetting about the rest of the people. Just because I say basketball is my favorite sport doesn't mean I hate football. What I'm saying that at this time, this is an endangered species and Black men are getting killed at a predominantly speedily rate than any other race. And so just like any endangered species, whether it's some type of bird, some type of, domestic or foreign animal, what they do, they make sure the public know this is an endangered species. Not trying to dismiss the fact that any other species is not important, but we're still trying to highlight this one. So the problem is what kind of protest what is the conclusion of a protest? I think me and Pastor Barry have always talked about the days of the old where the civil rights movement moved and protesting was very huge. But in my opinion, the days of actually protesting and hitting the streets are dead. There was a time and a place for that when our people hit the streets and were protesting and rioting and all of that. That's not going to get us to a place that we need to go as Black people, just protesting. The thing is, the majority have seen that before. We've done that for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And guess what? We still seeing the same results as we did 50 years ago. I think about Will Smith. One of the quotes said, he was like, racism or racism is not being blown up. but it's just now being filmed. And thanks to social media, everything being blown up. But the thing is, we have to realize that we can't do it the same way that our ancestors did it. They did it that way to get us to a better standpoint than we are today. They didn't have the opportunity to be in corporate America, to work for large banks, to work for a Fortune 500 company. That in itself was blown out of proportion to them. They paved the way by hitting the streets for us to get. First, we have to get financially free. That's the black dollar used to be circulated through the black community. It used to stay in the community for over 30 days. Now, guess what? It only stay over 6 days. Can you hear me? And so, with all that being said, we have to reach a point where before we try to expand out, we have to expand in. And so, what positive outcomes should we expect after the protest? Absolutely nothing. By protesting, we are not going to get into position where we think we ought to be. It's not going to come by protesting. We've been protesting for many years, and guess what? And so the idea is, here's the thing right here. We have to get in our position where we're being taken seriously. Rioting and all that good, is it justifiable? I'm not here to say yes or no. People get upset. Guess what? We have to make a conscious choice. Guess what? By voting, by getting into the political realm, placing our people in a position where we can make political decisions. We got to understand we are the minority. So any people that's in political realm, they guess what? They're going to lean to the majority vote. So if we don't have people that look like us, that talk like us, that come from the same neighborhood as us, how do we know, or how do they know the things that represent us?
I mean, that's a lot. You just dropped on us, but that's good. That's good. It's good conversation. Now, I'm gonna put up a couple of things that people have said, are watching us. So let's see what Christina said. My prayer is more black fathers who are not in the same home with their sons become more involved and educate their sons, teach them and prepare them more manhood and life as a black man, and the value of ownership and value of financial literacy and common literacy. So, I mean, that's Christina Harris. She chimed in. She's watching. So, how do you guys feel about that? I mean, she made some good points. My thing is, what's the next step for our families? And I think she brought up a couple good things: financial literacy. And do you know that if a child is not reading at the third grade level at the third grade, that child is actually destined, has a greater probability of not finishing high school, and a greater probability of not going to college, and a greater probability of being incarcerated.
Yeah,
so literacy is important too.
They actually build jail cells and jailhouse beds based off that third grade reading score.
Well, that's argued that may be fact and maybe it may be urban legend, but it's been said many times before. Yes,
I think that's true. Based off just based off my time with I'm a member of the YMCA, and so that's one of the big things that we talk about in terms of reading and our book drives is that score, and they always equate it to what we're doing from a jail cell perspective. And simply, it just makes sense that if a child can't read, you're already behind. If you're not reading on grade level by third grade, you're already behind with 3 years to your counterparts. So it kind of makes sense. In terms of, I'll dive into the question. For me, I grew up with neither one of my parents, my mother or father. I've never met my dad. My mom left when I was in elementary school. So my take on it, we have to really go back to this village concept. I think I was really blessed to grow up in a neighborhood where the neighbors were instrumental in my development, and that could have been what I thought was the neighbor being nosy, but it was actually her saving my life because I had to be home by the time the street lights came on, or that was the man in the church that taught me how to count money. So I think because our family dynamics have changed over the years, I think for me, one of the biggest advantages is really going back to community, helping raising people's kids, just because that's what's needed now. Parents are a lot different from what they were 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
On the financial on financial literacy, like Christina said, and I know Christina. I'm gonna keep it 100. We gotta stop this lazy. Stop depending on schools to teach our kids. I mean, it's all cool to give your kid a game. This is what I'm known for right now. Talking about this parenting. It's cool to give your kid a game and all that. That's nice, but you need to take time. It could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, however long you need to. You need to break down real life factors. You need to let them know that being smart is being cool. If they can learn all the rap songs, just like how I was when I was a kid, I just can tell you a rap song. I can tell you that I can take the time to use my brain and go learn something new. I can go read the dictionary for about 30 minutes. All this stuff, we depend on these teachers to teach our kids. Like I'm seeing a lot of parents in quarantine, they might be just being funny on social media, but oh my God, I can't wait for school to come back so my kids can go, man, you got to stop that thinking. You got to teach your kids. We got to do it ourselves. And the black community was the strongest. It's crazy to say this, but the black community was the strongest when we were segregated. We had black businesses. We had everything. We did everything together. We supported each other. And like he said, I love what he said. We as a community, we raised up a child. Nowadays, you look at somebody's child wrong, you correct somebody's child wrong, they crying. Like we got to stop with this softness and this babying, and we got to go back to how we had it used to be, and be like tough, strong love, to where you want your kid to survive. So and teach your kid off your mistakes. Stop all this. Let them watch TV all day, sit on computers all day, play games all day. Take time with your kid to teach them what the real world is, and stop waiting till they teenagers. Once the child's a teenager, they stuck. They already been hit by society. They already gonna listen to their friends. They not listening to you, like mom, dad, whatever. That's cool. You gotta start early, and that's what we need to do as a black community. Start teaching them all of this: police brutality early, knowledge early, financial early. Stop waiting till we grow and went through the mistakes. Teach them early. That's just here. That's just how it should be. Period.
And shout out to you though for teaching your son early, like even stuff that you didn't get when you were King's age. Now that you're starting to teach him, and there's nothing wrong with learning with your kid, like the stuff that we wasn't, because in every community but the black community, it was some stuff that I watched on Aaron's video with his son that white people chimed in, that Asian chimed in. They was like, "Wow, that's cool. I learned this at that same age too." And that stuck with me because I didn't learn that at King's age. And now it was kind of a thing like, of course, social media, many other culture had already been way ahead of us, learning about taxes, learning about investments, learning about assets. And when we get 2021, we're already behind. And so we have to start early with our kids, just teaching them about investment, because economic money answers all things. So we have to get economically independent before we can even have those conversations.
I think a lot of that comes from, again, your parents really didn't know. And you think about the generation before you, they really didn't know. You are the generation that has this information. So I also partner with a group called the Homeboys. And so it's 14 of us. We graduated from high school at various times. We all took these unique paths. Some made it to the NFL. Some of them are entrepreneurs. But what we did was we go back to our own hometown of Laudenburg, and we're teaching the financial literacy. We're teaching about decision making. We're teaching them about how do they pick friends. But it was because we were able to leave the small town of Laudenburg and go acquire all this knowledge, all this experience. But now we feel like we're obligated to go give it back. So I don't necessarily blame my parents or the generation before me just because they didn't have the access to information. And a lot of us are still screaming that we're first time college graduates. Again, we're the first time to do this. So I think it's actually up to us to take what we've learned and go give it back. And that's getting into the local schools, going to volunteer at your local YMCAs, going to the schools like Title I. The information is out there. I just think we have to be a lot more strategic in how we get it to people.
Cool. I think we got
I'm gonna say a hard thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna say a hard thing, but I hope you find some truth in it. I think that black men owe black women more. I really do. Because if you look at the statistics, black women, minority-wise, are some of the most educated in the entire demographic. Black women over the last several decades have stepped up in so many ways. And I know that a lot of Black men are quick to talk about their mamas, quick to talk about mamas and sisters and aunties and what these women have done for us in so many ways. And I say to our Black men, what are we willing to do? I know that there are structures that America has set up in front of us that make us more susceptible to prison, make us more susceptible to persecution and being gunned down in the street and all those things. But are we able to rise above those things? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that God placed something special in all of us to be able to take the positions that we have been given and rise above everything. Because our sons deserve it, our daughters deserve it, our community deserves it, and it's time for us to stop making excuses, no matter what hand you were dealt, and continue to strive to be better for the next generation. That's the type of mentality that it takes. Because if we just succumb to our current situations, we're dead in the water. And we have no right to ask more of our country. We have no right to ask more of our women, of the people who surround us, if we're not willing to do more for ourselves.
That's a good point, bro. You brought up like Black women, and that's a good fact because Black women are killing the entrepreneurial realm right now. Black women are more educated, and also Black women are um, getting more financially free on than any other race. Not just in the least or, but in the majority. Like they're the biggest come up. But my question is, why do you think that? Why are they striving so hard and seem like every other race or every other genre ethic is just kind of stuck in the same place?
Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah, what Grant said was real, and what Tori's saying is all going in and going off what y'all saying. But the problem is, I'll say on both sides of the story, because Black women are graduating at a higher rate than anybody. Like, think about the Black women we all know. And me, like, I went to school with Grant, and he probably don't remember. And like, Tori, that's my brother, so I was raised amongst his family. He was raised amongst mine. So me and Tori talk about this issue all the time. The black men have let the community down. So we have, like, think about it, all these women having babies on their own. So we owe that. So women not knowing how to respect the Black men, they're not gonna respect. That's why they hard, and they feel we think that they're harsh, but they have a right to be. We've let them down. We know we might sit here and I hate. I'm going to keep it 100. We might have sex with them, and then boom, we out once we find out that they got our baby. We leave them on their own because we mad, or we done got hurt or whatever. So we've been helping tear down the community. The Black community has been raised up off of broken relationships. So that's the problem of the man. A woman not respect the man, and she don't know what a man is. She ain't got nothing to look up to. Why would she respect it? So that's our fault, and we got to build that up. And then but my problem here with what y'all saying with Black women graduating and being smarter, the problem is we're babying the boys. Michelle Obama said it best: Black women need to stop babying their sons. We always, oh, my baby, we want to talk to them like little kids. And when our kids are not good in sports, we want to cry and transfer them to another school instead of telling them Black boys work harder. Go do what you need to do. We baby our sons too much, but our Black girls, like I have my little sister, she's 18, had nothing but A's. But I see her, and she didn't get baby like that. She got told, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and that she's doing it. But all the boys in my family got babied. They got rocked and got pacifiers, and don't talk to him like that when his daddy's being a man too. When for the ones that do have fathers around, so that's the problem with us. We need to stop babying our sons and treat them just as equal as the girls, because the real world ain't gonna baby them. They gonna chew them up and spit them out. I know more Black girls from when I graduated had their own house, their own cars before any of my friends ever did, because they didn't get baby. We gotta stop babying these boys and teach them how to be men early. Let them be kids, but they need to know what path they need to go on. We have to show them that as men being in our kids' lives, and as women stop babying our babies just because they don't have their daddy around, or just because of this, that, and the third. That's what we need to do as a whole.
Hey, Pastor B, you on mute.
Does anybody else want to have any questions here before I go to some of the people who've been sending in questions? Anybody want to respond to the previous question before I bring some other people's questions in from the side?
I got a question. You know, me being the only child, and I do agree with Michelle Obama, kind of the point that Karen is talking about, you know, being tougher with Black little boys. But at the same time, my mother really her only son really nurtured me the most. So it's natural to her as far as like giving me the natural. How do you tell a woman, especially a black woman, loving her black son, to ease up and be tougher on that? I don't think it's a point where they're trying to. I don't think it's a point where they're actually trying to baby them. I think being nurturing and knowing the state of black boys and black men, the world that they grow up in, how do you tell a black mother to give a balance between all of that?
Before I'll just say your mom did. These new moms, I don't know. These new moms strike me as their son is their king. Their son is they put their son on this unique pedestal that I think is detrimental to their long-term success, and that's all I'll say. These new moms are they're different from the older moms in terms of that nurturing and caring. Now, for me, these new moms, they almost feel like their son is their friend, and he is the crutch, or he's the get back at the child's father. And that goes from how they're dressing the child to the mannerism of the little boy. The little boy is almost a carbon copy of his mother, but he's a little boy. So I have a problem with them just understanding that he's my son and not my friend, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's my son. He's not my man. But I'm gonna do some hot questions here. All right. So we're gonna just bullet some questions here for the next few minutes here. There's a lot of them here. Here's one for you. Doing the same thing the same way all the time and expecting different results is insane. We want different. We need to do different. Reacting is emotional and destructive. Responding is intentional. We must be intentional in our efforts and strategies to force change. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
I totally agree with that, and that's Jackie, who's been like a mentor to me. But a question that I had about that kind of goes on the line, the rioting that's happening in Minneapolis as far as burning down a police station, is that justifiable? Can we justify that type of emotional reaction just because a brother that looks like us died? Is it justifiable? Because one thing about social media, I hate social media during this time because everyone acts out of emotions. Everyone goes straight to emotions. And guess what? We have emotions for a reason, but it has to be a cerebral process during all of this to get us to that place. So my question is, to kind of go off what Jackie said, is what happened in Minneapolis, the killing of cops, the burning down of a police station, the rioting, is it the looting? And let's not even get on what Trump has already said when the looting started, the shooting started. We can say that for another topic. But is it justifiable just because a brother like us has been murdered?
We did that question earlier, man. I don't want to go back down that way again about it's justifiable, but I think we're going to get I got some questions for you to get you guys motivated. I'm going to give you the hard one because you said that. So here we go. Can I ask a question? If war was necessary to end slavery, why won't we even broach the subject that again war will be necessary? Respectfully. John, you want to take that one?
That's a tough one, for real.
I'm going to give you something to think about. I'm going to give you time to think about it. In 1773, the pre-America being established, there was some looting of people's personal property. There was some rioting, and there was an uprising, and we celebrated. It's called the Boston Tea Party. You can actually go to the location of it if you go to Boston. This nation was founded on looting, uprising, rebelling, and protest, and we celebrated. There's been this annual function, I think in New England. It's a pumpkin festival. At this pumpkin festival, it's common for them to turn over cars, flip them, tear up their personal property, drink heavily, It doesn't make the news at all. That demographic is not the same demographic that is in the streets in Minneapolis. They're white. Recently, the Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, and that was a big deal. And that's just a couple years ago. And after the Super Bowl, the community took to the streets and they tore up cars, police cars, and vandalized their community. That was not called looting or rebellion or anything like that. That was not called a riot. But that they didn't look like us either. And so when someone asks this question, it puts it into a thought process. Why are we not dealing with this big question right here? This is a big question right here. And for the people who are out in the streets, somebody needs to answer this question.
I just got a question.
I'm saying you guys don't have to, but that question needs to be answered because the people who are in the streets don't hear a response that answers that question from society.
Well, first of all, black people can't even financially finance themselves to have a war. War requires resources. We already are outnumbered as far as the population goes. So war with numbers that we are outnumbered as far as weapons, as far as economical resources. We don't even grow our own food. That's going to be, so war is out. Physical war is out of the question. I hope I'm answering the question right.
Okay, yeah, you are. Well, I want you to point this out. Vietnam won.
Right. And
okay, so let's put in perspective. They're poor, they were outgunned, outmanned, and they won. So let's put that in perspective. But keep going.
Yeah, no, because we don't grow our own food. We don't know how to farm. We don't grow anything. We're not economically sound. We're talking about an actual physical war. We don't own any nuclear bombs. So the question about the war factor cannot be physical. It's only 50 to 60 million Black Americans, and everybody in it.
30.
We was that 30 to 50, whatever. We
30 million
of war to even go down. The way we have to fight is in the political realm. We have to fight with law. We have to fight with our mind economically. That's the only way we have a chance. But it's not war. It's just independence.
Okay. Someone else want to chime in? John, you want to chime in?
I think that, we can bring war however we see fit. We do need that leverage. We do need a better economical stance in order to achieve the things that we would want to desire in the future. But what I see is that we need to start acquiring more assets. We need to start building more wealth. We need to start, not just teaching our youth, but teaching ourselves. A lot of us lack that knowledge on how to obtain assets and how to retain assets at that point. Once we begin to set ourselves up in that manner, we begin to give ourselves leverage in order to go to war in any way we see fit. We got to prepare ourselves mentally because historically, that's how change has came about. It has came about from war in many different arenas, whether it's been political, whether it's been physical, and it was done with little resources. We had uprisings that were done with little resources and very little weapons. It was done with a strong mental and with heart, and knowing that if I stand against this right now, right here, it's going to make a change. So we have to change the narrative on thinking that, we can only go about war a certain way. We need to be able to go to war in any way we see fit, but we need to start acquiring the assets to do so. We need that leverage.
We can't afford that. You got to understand, in the Civil War, the South had heart. The South had weapons. The South had economical resource. The South had numbers. None of that mattered. They were outnumbered economically.
The South lost because of black people.
The South did not win. Did not
lose. The South lost because black people were enlisted into the military.
No.
And because black people were enlisted in the military because the Union was losing. And so that's how the South lost.
No, there were multiple reasons. That is a small 10% of it. I've studied the Civil War. The Civil War was based off economics. The North had way more plants. The North had way more economical resources, boats, marines, We're talking about bombs, weapons, better equipment. We're talking about food, water supply. Bro, the black community has none of this. You're talking about, I see the guerrilla warfare. This is not 17, 16, 1500s. We're talking about where people are getting killed by drones. Black people, what are we saying when people in Iran are getting killed 10, 5, 6, whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 miles away by a drone in DC? I don't understand this question.
Bro,
It sounds
that's not realistic for in America. So that's not gonna happen in America. But I hear
drone.
what you're saying. But that's not realistic for
Not
America.
realistic. They are more technical. I don't want to say they. We are
You
not.
can't say that because we're in the military too.
Yeah, but as far as like resources, we are not there to supply a whole army. And again, this is not going to happen. We're not going to war. It's not going to happen. Only way why we use our democracy, democratic resource. This is the only way that's going to happen.
Let's
So
get one more person in on that.
I
We ain't
definitely
going to war.
waited on this. So you want to go ahead first? You want to go first?
Nah, go ahead.
Did Jesus, and I'm saying aside from flipping over a table in the temple whenever he was outraged by what was going on, did Jesus need to come down to the earth and wage war? Did
You're
Jesus
breaking
need
up.
to pick up? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? All right. Jesus ministered to people for 33 years and revolutionized the world. Aside from flipping over a table in the temple whenever he saw people engaging in transactions, he didn't need to bring a sword and a shield in the physical sense to change everything. Everything about the way that we think, everything about the way that we operate as people in terms of Christians. Whenever Gandhi spoke, Gandhi did not need to wage a physical war on anybody. I know that people are very quick to look at Malcolm X. They're very quick to say, well, if they have a gun, we have a gun. You know, if we went to war with white people in this country, the only thing that would result, whether we won or not, is on the back end, there would be more hurt and there would be more hate. And the cycle would continue. Love is a much better antidote for this problem. And a relationship is a much better antidote for this problem. And I truly don't believe we have exhausted all of our resources to try to address this problem. And I'll continue to go back to moderate whites. I'll continue to say that Black people continue to go to white people and build relationship with white people. Take it upon yourself to love your neighbor, even if they won't come to you. And I guarantee that the long-lasting effects of that relationship will not only echo into their children, but it'll echo into the way that they interact and vote, and the way that they continue to militarize the police and legislation, and so on and so forth. I think a lot of people are very quick to point at Donald Trump or Barack Obama or a president and try to politicize this thing and say that a president can fix this issue. No amount of politics is going to fix this issue. People's hearts are going to fix this issue, and war is not the way to prick the hearts of many and bring about change.
Very good. Now, anybody else want to answer this question? I have another one for you guys. Here's the next one.
That's the same one.
Oh, wait, the same one. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Here's the next one. I'm curious if this group of men can share ways in which you all think the white community can be even better allies to the Black community.
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I think it's multi-layer. I think showing solidarity, calling out the wrongs that we see. That's just injustice to the man in Minneapolis. That's to where you see Black people being treated in your own local grocery store, being respectful to your neighbor, just being more engaged and showing more empathy. I think more of the emotional intelligence side of what's really going on. I think Tori mentioned earlier, or someone mentioned earlier, how white people would normally isolate these events into just one particular case. But now that we see that they are repetitive and there's a real trend, it's really just calling some of your, it can be similar to calling some of your Black friends and say, hey, I'm here with you. I stand with you. I don't think there's one answer for white people to do, or like there's no one answer for Black people to do. I think it's just a collective, intentional engagement with the people you care about.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I mean, that's a good question. I think some whites have always partnered with the Black community. When you go back to slavery and you talk about abolitionists, a lot of those abolitionists, they were white people, white Christian, white Quakers, white, Christian men that housed runaway slaves. And I think it's always been there. Even Martin Luther King, when he would go on his marches, a lot of those financiers were white. That's facts. You can go back and check that as you will. So it's always, people have always from other races have stood with us. And so I think partnership is one, and just always showing the rights and politically being there, and finances the right cause. Like even the Black Lives Matter group is financed by white people. That's a straight fact. And you're on mute,
I'm
Pastor.
sorry. I'm on mute because I want to make it sound better. But every action has a reaction, whether positive or negative. We need to try harder to retain our emotions. And yes, I know it's hard sometimes, but I believe the outcome will be better, and we will not be numbered with the negative aggressors, but labored with a higher standard. That's who we were created to be. And I think Dolores is following along with, that's your mom.
That's grandma right there. That's my grandma right
That's
there.
your grandma. Okay. All right.
Raising a holy church right there. That's my
Yes. So we're gonna leave that one on there. Just as yes. All right. Very good. Man, you got people up here trying to spike the tea, man.
But I do think some conversation.
Go ahead.
I do think there's some conversation around emotions, though. I think it's very important that we do show our emotions at this time. For so long, they've been bottled up, and we didn't know how to show them. Or now we need people like a Miss Dolores, so that when younger people do show their emotions, we can be there to help channel those emotions, to really redirect those emotions. But I don't believe in covering up emotions at this point. Is how do we redirect those emotions and say, take that same anger, that same mentality, and then how do we channel in something that's more beneficial, that we can develop some type of mushroom effect either within ourselves or our local community. But we have to figure out a way to understand emotion. That a big thing now is emotional intelligence. So really understanding emotions and how they play in our daily lives and how to redirect them. I think that pays long dividends for African Americans, because for my own self, I didn't know how to control my emotions early on. And it cost me a great deal. But as I've gotten older, I'm still the same passionate. I'm still angry. I'm still passionate about Black people. I'm still forceful. But I've been able to redirect that energy, those emotions, and to say, I'm still angry, but instead of fussing and pushing back in a way that's not going to be productive, I'm going to help people with their resumes.
I seen that firsthand, by the way.
Yeah, you see it firsthand.
Quentin was my manager at Wells Fargo. I seen it.
So he's seen my growth, but I've been able to take my same emotions and I put them in where, like, I want to help people. So my emotions are about, I'm still angry that I wasn't promoted because I was Black. But now, instead of it's just about me, I'm gonna help 5 Black people change their resumes, and we all gonna succeed, and we're all gonna be elevated. So I think emotions are good. It's just really understanding those emotions. And if you listen to some of these songs by these young rappers, they're full of emotions. They're full of just anger and hate or stuff they want to get off their chest because no one's listening, or because we've been told so long not to show those same emotions.
And that's beautiful. Like you said, you channeled those emotions, and instead of like holding them in and only helping yourself or using them, now you're helping 5 people. So the idea of having warfare, why do we need more blood spill?
Yeah.
Why do we need more brothers dying? You talk about this imaginary warfare. Why do we need more Black people dying?
We don't.
And channeling that anger and using it in a different outlet, guess what? You were able to help other people become more successful. So I think you're right. I like what you said. It's channeling those emotions. I believe God gave us anger. The Bible never condemns anger. It never says anger is a sin. It says be angry and don't sin. So what does it say? God gave you an anger, but he wants you to channel it in a certain ways that's positive for everybody. So you learning that and being mature and growing that has helped not just you, but help other people with their resume. So finding that creative outlet is important, not warfare. And so that's the point that I'm trying to get people to say, we don't need more bloodshed. You're on mute again, Pastor V.
Sorry, I keep putting on. I'm trying to have a better conversation. But you might know Antonio Jordan. He has like 1,000 questions. So I'm gonna put up his last question here. So you have these economic ideas, all these educational ideas. Yet we know the stories of Rosewood and Tulsa. They will never let us prosper because their fear and hate won't let them. So all your ideas will never be possible if we can't defend ourselves.
Well, when you first come talking about Tulsa,
So, and that leads us to the question that we had.
Hold on, I've been to Tulsa, so I've seen the place that was bombed. I've seen the place that I've been to Tulsa, and one thing about that is it wasn't just something that was just guns. Tulsa was bombed. Tulsa was bombed by actual airplanes. We don't own airplanes in that right. So when you talk about protecting, we can't protect against bombs being done. Only thing what would have been better for Tulsa is to be able to have economic power, to be able to be sustainable, and people in political power that were on our team, on our side, to be able to come in and help build. And Rosewood, the same thing. Like that was a situation that was out of control. But as far as they go from the warfare standpoint, we can't compete from a warfare standpoint. So when you're talking about guerrilla warfare, we can't compete. We can defend ourselves. Believe me, I'm all about defense. But as far as like going on the offensive side, we can't afford to do that.
Well, I want to point this out. The word warfare, I think we put too much energy into it. Just so we understand, the people in the streets are in the middle of a battle right now. And so warfare actually is real because it's actually taking place right now in the way that they see or have capabilities of being combatants. And so saying we can't go to war, that's a past tense statement because people are actually physically in battle now. So more so is this question we had to start us off with, how can we ensure safety of our families and communities going forward? How do we do that going forward?
Awareness. I think just social awareness. Your surroundings, and it goes back to, again, I'm really big on community. I remember a time I knew my whole neighborhood. You ask me now, I barely know the person that stays two doors down. So I think how we protect our safety of our families and communities is talking to each other. Like, what's going on in your life? How can I help? We've become so introverted where we get up, we go to work. As soon as we get off, we close the door and we don't go back outside until the next morning. I think to ensure our safety is, you have to get to know people. Who's going to look after your house when you're gone? That was my neighbor. That was me calling Tori and just checking in on people. So I think we have to get back of that sense of Black people taking care of each other is super important during this time. So for me, it's just been calling my friends. How you guys doing? Is there anything I can help you with? And the same thing for my family. And you can start feeling the movement because now they're calling the people that are actually in Laurinburg with them. They're reaching back out to me to make sure I'm okay. So I think we take care of each other by taking care of the people that we care about.
Very good. Somebody else, please.
I think in addition to awareness and being interpersonal, we need to get back to strategy and structure. We need to continue to have conversations like this. We need to continue to put these topics on the table, and we need to strategically figure out how to move forward, whether that's economically and to piggyback off the warfare can be achieved in many different ways, not so much physically, but if we're talking economic warfare, if we're talking, mental warfare, we just need to be strategic about what we're doing. We need to put the structure back and planning ahead and really trying to press us forward by doing that consistently is my belief, and how we can keep our communities safe going forward.
And
Very good. Very good.
that's from a practical view.
That's
John,
very good.
that's a good point. Like a practical view is, how do we have that warfare? Well, that first starts with credit. That first start with actually not just knowing who our neighborhood, but owning our neighborhood. So if we don't own our neighborhoods, then we don't have our neighborhoods. We have nothing to protect. So it's a practical battle. It's a cerebral, practical warfare that we have to have. And it all starts from the inside, whether we're credit, actually owning houses, owning property. We can't actually have that type of economic warfare until we actually become owners that have ownership of our own neighborhoods. And if we don't have ownership, they can facilitate the rules.
All right, Grant. Thank you, Tony. Grant, go ahead. And then after Grant, I want to get everybody your last take a minute or two for your last statement, your big crescendo, your big theory, your big close. All right, and I'll go last. So go ahead, Grant, and we'll go around the circle.
The word ensure in the question, it troubles me a little bit, because you can never actually ensure your own safety. The way that America is built, the way that it is designed, the way that there are over 330 million people in the country, you can't ensure your safety. But what you can do is you can educate yourself and try to go and live a life that gives you more access to resources. We see celebrities all the time. They have bodyguards, they have people, they have cameras in their houses, all that stuff. Whenever we talk about putting our families in the best positions and our communities in the best positions, like Torian said, we have to get access to resources. Is it ever foolproof? Absolutely not. As long as there will be the next racist or the next person who might be mentally ill who has access to a firearm, and all of the Second Amendment legislation. That's a whole different topic. But there will always be some slight chance. But the chance lessens whenever we have an education, resources, and are able to move our families to safer and more secure neighborhoods.
All right. We lost John. Torian?
I like that question. I don't know, it doesn't have a name, but how can we ensure the safety of our families and communities going forward? That's a really good question. I think one thing we can do is, I don't even know. I mean, as far as we see these people literally hands up, people to see these hands up and still getting shot. We see people that are surrendering and cerebral, on the ground still being killed. And so I really don't know the question to that. As far as, I don't know if anybody else can take it, but I can't pinpoint a way to stay safe.
All right. John, did you answer this question yet?
I did. I started out.
All right. So then I'm getting Quentin. Did you answer this question? You did, right? Everybody answered. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. This is how we're gonna go. We're gonna start with Grant, then John, and let me take this question off here. And can I take it off? And then we're gonna go to Grant, John, Quentin, Torian. I'm gonna put your question up for your mom again. I think we kind of answered it earlier, but we'll put it up, and you also make your last statement, Torian. Then I'll go last, and then we'll get up out of here. So, Grant, the floor is yours. You have a minute and a half to say what you want to say.
All right. It's tough. It's kind of tough to summarize everything in one statement, but I think that we need to really emphasize in terms of solutions, um, focusing on the voices that are actually willing to hear us. We have to mobilize the people around us that actually care to see us in a better position. There will always be people who they see the killing of a black person, or they see black people in poverty or struggling, or and they can come up with any number of reasons for why that is and not care. But what really matters, and it always goes back to this, the moderate white. And I love that Dr. King kind of articulated that, because it does take a team effort. The United States is a melting pot. It's composed of so many different people. And truly, I do want to say this as well. We tried legislation and politicizing things. We tried the war on drugs, and in terms of the Republicans, and we tried food stamps, and we tried all these government ideas, and we tried different leadership and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the heart. It really does. We have to get people to realize that there's no person that you're going to vote. If someone literally stood in front of us and said, I'm the candidate who's going to solve all racial issues, we would laugh at them and be like, you're crazy. So why do we expect that from the people that we elect, instead of just going out into our communities and trying to make a difference? So I guess that's kind of like my charge to people as we end. And the last thing I want to say is get active. Go do it yourself.
Pastor B, you're on mute.
Could you hear me?
Brother John, you have the floor. I was mimicking it. Y'all didn't hear it? No. John, go ahead.
Just in closing, I just hope that a lot of people took what I took from this conversation, and that there's a lot of different point of views as to how we can move ourselves, forward in these situations during this time. And I think what it all boils down to is that some of the things that I've been hearing that we all agree on is that we definitely have to increase our economic power. We have to be more responsible about the leaders we put into authority. We have to be more diligent about what we're asking for of those leaders, and we have to be diligent about what we're asking of ourselves. We have to hold ourselves accountable to the same things that we expect out of the people around us. And I think if we just continue to unite on these conversations, and have this open dialogue about the things that we can do to kind of push us forward, I think soon enough we'll start to see change. But with that change, there'll always be some type of resistance or opposition. And I just think we have to prepare ourselves strategically to embody whatever we need to embody to get past that opposition, and just remain strategic to the cause itself, and getting to where we need to be as a community.
Pastor Barry, I can't hear you.
This Sunday, thank you. This Sunday at 1 p.m. It ends now, Charlotte. It is a gathering of a visual of churches and leaders and cross section of individuals coming together to take a stand, to let the community know that we're in this together, and we believe it's going to stop now. And I want to share that before, because we keep talking about solutions, and I think this is one that the community has said that they feel is a first step here in Charlotte to change the condition of the community. So I want to share that. So Quentin.
Okay. First, Pastor Barry and Tori, I thank you guys for inviting us and getting us together. I think it was a really awesome group of just unique minds, unique perspectives, saying that we all come, as Black men, we come from different walks of life. So just to hear the energy and passion and zeal gives me more energy to keep going. But I think my last words would be really just for just a message to people, just during this unique time that we're battling both COVID and what's going on as Black men. Just protect your mind, body, and soul. I feel like a lot of this is more a spiritual warfare, and I think it's about how endurance. Can we last? I think we'll be fine long term. We're really bright, strong people. We're built on a strong foundation. But I think this is a test of our spirit and see if our spirits will be broken. So my words of encouragement, just to be encouraged over the next few weeks, and reach out to any of us if you're going through something and you want to talk to somebody. But this was fantastic, and again, just protect your mind, body, soul, and spirit.
Excellent. Tony, before you go, man, get your thoughts together. I have a couple things, just some highlights of people saying. I have to go, but I've been listening. Thank all of you gentlemen for sharing your thoughts. Shout out to Torian for sharing the link. So there you go, Torian. Your boy, or whomever. What personally will you ask black men in America to do to be safe? Just going to share what people are saying here before Torian lays it out. 100, Jay Hill. Antonio Jordan, man, this brother here asked 1,000 questions, but he was on point, varied angles, making sure we were sharp. He loves the platform discussion. He challenged us today. Torian, here you go. This is to pave you on in.
Yeah, man, this has been good. I want to piggyback kind of off what Quentin said. This is a spiritual warfare. We don't fight against flesh and blood. So it's not black and white. I think about the story that Jesus told about the Good Samaritan. That story was equivalent to a white versus black. The Jews hated the Samaritans. The Samaritans were mixed people that mixed with the Gentiles. The Jews hated them more than they hated the Gentiles. And so from that perspective, putting it in a black and white sense, that was equivalent to Jesus talking to black people and saying the black man that fell on the road, a white man helped him better than a black man helped him. That's equivalent to that story as you get from the teaching of Jesus, trying to express that it is spiritual, that it is come from an inside, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so from what I want to leave with is this the point that let's not quit at these discussions. A lot of times we have discussions and nothing happens after that. We quit talking, we quit coming together like this, we quit having these conversations, and it never actually turns into something. So I want us to continue, whether that's actually getting together. And thank you, Pastor D, for sharing that that event on Sunday. That's a great point. That's a great way to actually go out into the community. Once we talk, let's just not talk about it. Let's actually put things into action.
Excellent, excellent. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you. I want to have some closing thoughts, and I try to be a moderator that challenges both sides, and I hope so. But I'm going to share with you something personally here. One, voting is part of the solution. We can't move unless we're part of the apparatus that's presented to us, and it's more effective locally than it is nationally. Because nationally, of course, we play with electoral politics, but I've campaigned in some shape, form, or fashion in 24 states in this country. I've worked for a president, been chief of staff to 2 state senators, and been a speechwriter at the highest level. So I'm all in on the political and the governmental aspect of it. But I'm also from Los Angeles, and I also understand when people don't have their voice, they strike out with the means they have available to them. So maybe I don't support the uprising, the physical uprising, but I understand the physical uprising. And I can appreciate the fact that people have gotten to a place and point that they're frustrated and they're angry and they don't know what else to do because this country has been violent to us. We did not learn violence. The country has taught us violence. From when we were captured and brought over to this country, we've been violated. Our women have been abused, have been raped, and we have been castrated, we have been lynched. And so we have not been the ones who committed the violence. We have continuously been the ones who've shown Jesus' love, God's love. And I think we will continue to do so because love is the answer. And the scripture says God is love, plain and simple. So agape love, that brotherly love, is what we have to exude. But at the same time, we have to have the empathy and the compassion to understand that people are acting without leadership at the front. And because we've been negligent, many of us, in providing leadership, now the community is doing what they know best to do, is to react to their emotions. But I'm confident, based upon what I learned in Los Angeles, that there are some people who are utilizing this opportunity to make a point politically, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. But it's going to take us all to come together and have respect for our different positions. And what I love about this conversation today, we've been challenged from different perspectives and different angles, but at the end of this conversation, we're still united as one. And we can continue that and be a reflection of that. We're now being leaders. We're now being teachers. We're now being mentors. Ultimately, we'll be those great sages we always looked up to. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Man, this is awesome. Thank you, Torian. Torian put this thing together today, and it's blessed. Join us tomorrow. I'll do this again tomorrow, Facebook Live, with Pastor Otis Moss III. He's the pastor of Trinity United UCC Church in Chicago, Obama's church. He'll be joining us tomorrow. Professor Charles McKinney from Rhodes College in Memphis. He's head of the Africana Studies Department there, and I believe history as well. And then we also have a pastor from Minneapolis will be joining us tomorrow at 2 o'clock and again at 7 o'clock. He's going to give us a report right in from Minneapolis. And then I have a good friend of mine, David Tandy. He's the former president of the city council in Louisville. If you didn't know, Louisville is up in arms today too. 7 people were shot during protests yesterday. 2 have been hospitalized, but no one was killed, but 7 people were shot in their protests yesterday. That's why I say war is relevant. So it's all about what stage of it we're in right now. So anyway, brothers, thank you again. Maybe we can do this again in the real near future. If you guys are up to it, we'd love to do it real soon. All right? Torian, let you have the last word, man. Go ahead and say something for the people.
Hey, fellas, I appreciate, man. I asked each one of you individually, reached out each one of you individually because I know all of you personally, but not just because I knew you were going to agree with what I had to say, but I knew that you were going to come from your own perspective and come from challenge each other as iron sharpens iron. So I really appreciate Quentin and John and Grant and Pastor and Daniel and also Kyron, because y'all all are great thinkers. Y'all all the elite in this time. And I know y'all all lead from different perspectives and y'all all lead in the arena. So thank you for joining me, and let's continue. Let's get together offline and let's continue the discussion. Let's plan another one for another future event. Love you.
Amen. Love you all too. All right, we're out.
Later, guys.
Peace.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So, family, we want to thank you all for joining us. I'm going to leave you guys with this. If I can pull it up, we're good to go. Have a good night.